Thank you for staying tuned. Now in Africa, the huge dry hair market of weaves, extensions and wigs crafted from everything from synthetic fiber to human or yak hair is worth billions of dollars. Now, Tanzania's government has announced a 25% tax on dry hair imports, which has women and industry stakeholders up in arms. Let's watch this.
The dust is still settling across various economic sectors after budgets were read across East Africa last week. There's still a lot of buzz in Tanzania, especially over the Tanzanian government's decision to impose a tax increase on wigs and hair extensions. The announcement by Finance Minister Philip Mpango was met with jeers and the thumping of desks in Parliament. The 25% tax on imported wigs and hair extensions and a 10% tax on those made locally is part of a series of measures aimed at increasing government revenue. Importers, retailers, hairdressers and the women who are their clientele say the new tax is devastating on several levels and in a variety of ways.
I am a customer. If the price of wigs rises, it will affect us. Wigs from abroad are expensive, and if the tax is raised, it means that we won't be able to afford to look beautiful. I think the government should leave it alone. Leave the original cost as it is so we can afford to be beautiful. Women have to care about their looks, and if we cannot afford to do so, then we are not attractive.
If the tax is raised, there won't be enough work for us. This is the only we have employed ourselves. We leave our homes to come to do this work. So if I lose my customers, it will affect me a lot because this is where I get my daily bread. I would advise the government that the tax should remain the same for the artificial hair made locally, but they can raise the tax on hair made abroad.
Zahura, a hairdresser in the Mwenge, a popular spot for hairdressers in Dar es Salaam, suggested an alternative target for the government's levy.
They should have put the tax increase on alcohol and not on hair, because alcohol creates more problems. People get addicted. It disrupts families. So they should have placed the increase there on the alcohol and left the hair so we can continue working and getting clients.
East Africa's third largest economy is hungry for funds as it's investing heavily in public infrastructure projects.
And the Nigerian mission in Equatorial Guinea is calling for the implementation of a joint policing agreement signed in 2016 in order to cut down the rate of piracy in the Gulf of Guinea. Nigeria's ambassador to the oil-rich country, Mr. Toko Gongulong, tells Channel's television business correspondent Temple Ashaju in an interview how the lack of implementation has led to pirates perpetrating crimes on the high sea connecting both nations. They also spoke about so many other issues.
It's an agreement between Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea, Guinean naval offices on joint policing of the Gulf of Guinea. There is that agreement that was signed by our president, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, and his Guinean counterpart, His Excellency Mbasugo. It is not yet implemented. The agreements had been signed, but we are still waiting for the details of the implementation. That is what is holding us back. And that is also what is contributing to this continuous conflict in the high seas between Nigerian forces and Nigerian traders who are moving along the coast. So what we are now working on, we have already made contacts with our authorities in Nigeria to facilitate the immediate implementation of that agreement, which was signed as far back as 2016, around March 2016, over 3 years ago. The two presidents signed the instrument allowing for the collaboration and close synergy between our naval forces to secure the Gulf of Guinea and to ensure that criminality does not take place and to control criminality in the high seas between Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea. It's a very fantastic instrument. The instrument is very clear and it brings about synergy. And this kind of African-African cooperation is necessary in fighting piracy in the Gulf of Guinea. It is because of the absence of the implementation of this kind of agreement that the pirates are now using that gap, that lacuna provided by the non-implementation of this particular agreement to exploit and to continue to strike. So we have drawn the attention of our government to the need to immediately begin to bring out the mechanism for implementation. We also sensitized the government of Equatorial Guinea that this agreement is lying fallow, should be raised up, dusted up, and implemented with immediate effect so that all these areas of friction between our naval forces, between our security forces, and then also the criminals that are running from pillar to post in the Gulf of Guinea on FETAT would now be tackled and brought under effective control in the passage of time. So we are working on it. And, bureaucracy takes time. So, but we are still working on our government. We are also sensitizing the Guinea government on the need to come about this. And they also even need it more because of the fact that there is a threat to the stability of this country from mercenaries and rebels. So with the synergy between Nigerian Navy and the Guinean Navy, there will be better security, enhanced security in the Gulf of Guinea for the betterment of Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea all at once.
And what's the implementation of BASA bilateral air trade agreements like in Equatorial Guinea as it relates to Nigeria?
Yeah, it's been on, but then the issue is that we have not been using the BASA. We stopped utilizing the BASA as far back as 1992. That was when the last Nigerian Airways flight came to Equatorial Guinea. That was around 1992. The market is small. The passenger rate is very low. Therefore, most Nigerian companies don't want to come here because they will lose. But Equatorial Guinea, being a small country and so far isolated, has its own airlines that are now going to other countries, including Nigeria. The Kronos is now going to Nigeria. The Sabre used to go to Lagos until they had some problem with the Airport Authority of Nigeria, and then they stopped going, I think, in 2017. But the Kronos airline is still flying Malabo, Port Harcourt. And there are passengers, of course. It's a small aircraft, about 30 or 40 passengers. It's doing very well. Every Friday, every Monday and every Friday, they fly to Port Harcourt from here. So they are using the provisions of the BASA. We are not using the same. We are not benefiting from it. They are benefiting from it.
So in terms of gas deposits that they have here in Equatorial Guinea and the manufacturing of LPG, which is something that they seem to have areas of comparative areas of advantage on over Nigeria, do you think it bothers them the fact that Nigeria is now diversifying and optimizing its own gas deposits and now reducing the importation of LPG from Equatorial Guinea?
The point to understand in this gas business here is that the gas here is not as prolific as in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, there are plans by the government of this country to liaise with Nigerian LNG to bring in more gas and process it here, because they have the system to process the gas, the LNG machine and the system and the factory and so on, the industry and this to manufacture gas and liquefied natural gas. So, but the gas deposit that they have is not as much as we have. And since there's a proximity between the Nigerian and the Equatorial Guinean gas fields, they are now proposing that we should now bring in our gas through pipes to Equatorial Guinea, process them, and then export them. So their gas is not as much as ours. So in fact, they are looking forward to cooperating with us. A delegation is likely to go before the end of this year to Nigeria to begin to negotiate with the LNG in Guinea and Abuja, to see how they can interface, to begin to export gas from Nigeria to Equatorial Guinea for processing and export.
Toko Gongulong, Nigeria's ambassador to Equatorial Guinea. And that's it on the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimizi Obi Iwago.